Ladies and gentlemen, here we are. It's the Leafs Weekender, and yes, there's an extra person with us today. Leafs Giffer, however you want to say it, extraordinaire, the one, the only, Omar, or if you want to see him over on Twitter, it's TOmar right here. How's it going, my friend? Long time no chat.
Yeah, literally. We were just talking like before the recording started, just like how the show overall has evolved. Before it was just phone calls and such, and now it's like a full step. It's been great. I remember back when we were like making jokes about talking about like Carolina and and how like some trades between the Leafs and Carolina might go. And now we're in another year hoping that they win the playoff round. So things change to an extent, but I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, well, appreciate you stopping in. And of course, we have Mr. Pete the Heat, one of my co-hosts here.
How are you doing,
TOmar?
Omar?
Time.
Yeah.
And then we have Mr. D434. Dylan, I'm too beautiful for this podcast. Fournier.
Hey.
All right, so let's get right into it here. Do the little ad read. Boxing Rock Brewing Co. is the proud sponsor of Offside Hockey Talk. Be sure to check out their Puck Off Lagerdale when you're out east. It's the absolute big beer for the big game or the big podcast with Tic Tac Tomar. And let's jump into it. The Leafs week that was, they faced the New Jersey Devils and the Edmonton Oilers. The Devils game, to me, guys, was a game where you look at it and you say, that's kind of playoff hockey. You got to have a nail biter. You got to figure it out. You got to grind it out, and you got to get the win, especially when you're down, guys. And if you guys all remember, I mean, I'm probably the elder statesman of this group, but when the Leafs went on that playoff run in the early 2000s, Dylan, you may not even been born. Alan McCully. If you remember the names Alan McCully and the band of merry men, when Matt Sundin and all the big guys were out injured, they went on a run. They went and did some damage, and really, when all the big guys came back, I think it kind of fell apart. But that's what Tuesday reminded me of. It was a bunch of guys that had to figure it out, and a lot of guys were coming into the lineup that are new, that just got traded here. There's names that have to try to fill in, whether they get into the lineup or not, whether it's Steve's. You look at all these different call-ups, different line combinations. Lafferty's playing with Yarncroke and Nylander, and now that might be a thing. So it was kind of looking back in time. We talk about the joke when we started the show here about how things change but stay the same. That, to me, reminded me of the early 2000s. Next man up mentality, and the Leafs got it done against the Devils. Omar, what did you think about the game against the Devils and how that team kind of persevered with no Tavares, Matthews with the banged-up knee that he's telling everybody's banged up, and Ryan O'Reilly out until the end of March?
Yeah, it seems like one of those games where we're just like the list of reasons to justify the loss was just like piling up. Like as you said, you don't have Ryan O'Reilly, John Tavares was out with some type of illness. Austin Matthews gets hit in the side of the knee with the puck. The Devils have been a great team the entire season. So like there are a number of things you can bring up where it's like if they ended up losing the game, it's like, oh, okay, well, it's Jersey and yada, but they were able to do it. They were able to actually like come away with the win. And I think that, to your point, and the kind of the comparison to like, the early 2000s, I think that's what you want to see in a team that I think has really tried to address that depth issue, both at forward and on defense, where usually if there was ever an injury, whether it was a significant injury or a smaller one, the next person in wouldn't really fill that job or fill that hole. I remember there are moments where like, Nick Robertson would be the person to like go in and say like, oh, okay, maybe that can be the person that can spark the lineup. I think that win in particular is a sign that, the Leafs can get it done when it needs to be done against like quality competition. I like the fact that it was done against the Devils. I really do, because again, they're one of the teams in the East that a lot of people are focusing on. They acquired Timo Meier, who didn't have that great of a game that night either. So I think it was awesome for the Leafs to kind of band together and able to get these wins, even though, again, there was a list of reasons why if they ended up losing that game, would say, okay, well, just one game, we'll move on to the next.
Yeah, so I want to ask the same question of you, Pete. What did you take away from that New Jersey game, aside from the points that we've already made here? What stood out to you that night?
Well, what pisses me off, I mean, like they're coming off a loss to Vancouver, which was a terrible game, and like is the last game of that road trip. So like I wasn't expecting too much. I mean, they held in they kept the game close. I think New Jersey even outshot them, like it was like 7-0 in the first. The Leafs just, I don't know, good teams find ways to win, and that's what the Leafs did that night. So I mean, I was happy with the effort. Good third period, and yeah, they just found a way to win.
What do you say, Dilly?
Now, although I didn't get to watch it, from what I can see, this is a team that they're taking their chances when they can, and they're battling with every ounce that they can, and that's playoff hockey. The fact that Tavares has been injured, he had limited minutes, I think, in that game, or it was this past game, says a lot about what Dubas wanted to do at the trade deadline and get that depth. Sam Lafferty stepped up to the plate, and they scored the first goal there. Mitch Marner, he's been on fire the past couple of games. He got that shorthanded goal. And then, although Austin's knee was acting up, he scored a power play goal, and he's had now 30 goals in 7 seasons. So it says a lot about this group, and they're growing in the right direction. And I'm absolutely pumped to see the last couple games of the season, to see the chemistry actually mold together with these new guys that are in the lineup.
And see, I think that's going to be a problem here. We'll move off the New Jersey Devil game in a moment. The continuity of the lines and getting things gelling is going to be a problem, because we've all alluded to it. Austin Matthews and that knee, he looked good last night because he had a couple of days to be able to rest. No game this week. Now you're looking at 4 games and 7 nights. You got Buffalo, you got Gauntlet, you got Colorado, Ottawa's in there. I think it's Carolina as well. So you're playing the who's. And, Ottawa fighting for every point, Buffalo fighting for every point. Now you have Austin Matthews with a banged up knee that he admittedly talked about yesterday and said that it's still not feeling the greatest. So now you have to look at those words, load management. And do you sit Austin Matthews here where you have depth, where you have guys you can call up to use? And I wonder if you do that because you want Austin Matthews to be 100%, and maybe he sits 2 games this week. I'm wondering, am I out to lunch here, Omar, or is that something that maybe the Leafs might have to look at with their premier guy they need for the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, it's always interesting. That really interested me a lot. I guess the honesty that Matthews had with it, because usually, if Matthews is dealing with something, he kind of tries to downplay it, like, oh, I just I tweak something here or there. I'm gonna take some rest or whatever. So in a weird way, I think him talk about it, I don't know if I'm trying to psych myself into it. It makes me feel like it might not that be too big of a deal. Like maybe it's a little a bump or a bruise like everyone will have at this point of the season. But I do think, especially with all the new parts, it hasn't been a good stretch run where the Leafs have been able to make use of all their new acquired talent all at once. Usually, there's an injury here. Ryan O'Reilly's out until a couple of games left of the season. Lafferty got in a serious run. McCabe's got a serious run. Luke Shen, just welcome to trial, so he hasn't been around the team as much. There's a whole 11 forward, 7-7D thing. So trying to kind of get things together. So I don't know. I think even if it's, I don't know. I don't want to say even if it's significant. But I just, because again, I don't think it's that bad. At the same time, I don't think now is the time for Matthews to sit. And I know in the past that has been a conversation. Like last year, everyone was like, let him get 60 and then he can sit. But I think in this run to the playoffs now, and again, the fact that you are facing the team, you're also facing teams that are desperate, that want the points. And I forgot who it was that mentioned it yesterday. I don't know if it was Keith specifically, I don't know, even Nylander, but they mentioned the idea that why was the game so intense, and I think it was Nylander. It was well, both teams want the points, so you have a game with Buffalo. Buffalo's they're going for that second wild card spot. Ottawa's going for that second wild card spot. Carolina's a top team in the league. So all of these games can be little tests or maybe little bodes of confidence for the players themselves, where you can use to kind of, pick up the pace a little bit. I think there are a lot of the new members on the team that have kind of helped increase the internal competition, the internal intensity, right? And then even on the competition factor, there's still players who are still trying to fight to be on that game 1 lineup. So I don't think Matthews should sit. And to be honest, I actually kind of hope that he plays as much as possible and kind of gets more into like a flow when it comes to his offensive scoring. And I think nowadays, especially like after after the recent game, the Edmonton game, seeing him score his goal, and again he scored against New Jersey as well. We haven't seen a lot of those runs where like every single game is just goal, 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 goal. And I hope Matthews can get into that. And if there's ever a time to do it, it'd be now. He's sick like game 1 against Tampa, which we all know is going to happen. He's just like on his best offensively. So I'm all for playing him. I don't think the injuries are too bad, whatever it is, and it ends up being.
Pete Dilly, what do you think?
What was the question?
Well, Austin Matthews did, basically.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, you're all good. I don't think he should. Like Omar said, like you want him to go into this postseason at the top of his game, and I saw the game against Edmonton, and man, does he have this edge to him? And I don't know if it was just because it was against Connor McDavid, but you guys.
Well, they got into a little tussle.
Yeah. The tussle between them. It's always been Connor versus Austin. And I think that was a big game for Austin to be like, listen, guys, I'm not going anywhere. I've just been sitting around. Not sitting around. I've just been here this entire season trying to prove to everybody that I'm improving on another side of my game rather than the goal scoring, where Connor's done the same, but his is totally focused on offense and taking over the game. Austin's doing it on both sides of the ice, and I think he's ramping up for a great playoff. I hope. I think he's at the top of his game right now, but I just can't wait to see what else he has to do.
Yeah, I'm sort of on your side. I hear what you're saying. Maybe just sit him out last game of the season. I don't know, but yeah, let him keep going. I love his two-way game right now. He doesn't have to score 60 goals like he did last year. Just keep going, keep playing your game, and then just save it for the playoffs. Just light up the Lightning in Game 7 this time, because
light up the Lightning. Look at this guy with the wordplay. All right. Let's switch to that Edmonton game, and I want to say some things about the Edmonton game here. The officiating, it was playoff-esque, to be honest with you. They were letting a lot of things go, and when they did call things, it was both guys going.
Yeah.
And I know Toronto came out on the advantage for the power plays, but one thing that I did like is I like the battle back factor. Bunting and Kane. Bunting didn't back down. Went after Kane just as much as Kane went after him. Tavares didn't take Desharnais' lickings. He got cross-checked 3 or 4 times, slashed him, took the $5,000 fine. Was Tavares in the right to slash like that? We know that can injure someone. No, but if the ref isn't going to call anything, you've gotten a stick to your back, and your back played like a violin, 3 or 4 times. Guys just strumming up and down it. And then all of a sudden,
spent 5,000. Well spent.
Yeah.
He tries to foot you and you get upset. And then you got Matthews and McDavid. Oh, and by the way, anybody who was upset about the McCabe and Lafferty deal, which I did see some pushback of why they got these guys, what you need to see is what happened when TJ Brody knocked the guy down in front of the net, and the beeline from Lafferty and McCabe to jump in there and start grabbing guys and pulling them out of the pile and flippers flying. I love it. That's what this team needs, and it really put the jam into the team last night. They were ready to go. They were hitting more, grinding more, and they just made McDavid's night miserable. You can do that to a team in the playoffs, start playing that heavy grinding game and shut down the opposing team's scorers and have some of your other pieces score. That's the big thing, and that's what happened against the Edmonton Oilers. Nola Chari gets 2 goals because of the extra work, the extra play. John Tavares in front of the net, driving the net. Mitch Marner just being stupid and doing that move that everybody was just like, what just happened? So these things are key, but the defensive grinded out style, the Leafs did that last night to Edmonton, and their big guns, they didn't like it. Connor McDavid was sulky. He didn't like, and I love the fact every time Toronto scored, the camera went to McDavid's face.
Yeah, they're
it was funny. But Omar, a game like that last night, it really does put a little pep in a step for a Leaf fan, because this team still needs to gel together. but it looks like the pieces understand what they're there for and what they need to do to take up after one another, to add some spark. And like Dylan said about Matthews' 200-foot game, it was on display last night. Defending against Connor McDavid, even William Nylander with the back check stick lift on McDavid, all those little things are coming to fruition now. But that goes a long way. What did you take away from that Edmonton game, besides Matt Murray maybe not hugging his post enough?
Well, I think the well, okay. Well, first off, to touch on some of the points you made before, because I think McCabe specifically has been incredible, and I think everything that the Leafs have needed / wanted on defense for a long time. And you mentioned McCabe like grabbing guys out of piles. It was TJ Brody who tied up McDavid and like kind of dropped him a little bit. And then Evander Kane went in, and then McCabe kind of stepped in. And was like, oh no, like this is not happening. Had some great shifts on the penalty kill as well. Like I think he got his full body in front of a Leon Draisaitl like pass attempt. So on that aspect, like, it's great there. But I think what that game like really shows, and I like that you mentioned Murray, because Murray didn't have the best game, but like what it shows is like what this team is capable of when you have structure in front of the net. And when the core four just decides to just take the game over, like the sequence of goals was hilarious to me, because it's Marner first, then it's Nylander, then Tavares again, and then Matthews. Like, and every time we talk about like what do the Leafs need to do in the playoffs, we can get into the nitty gritty minutiae. You have to defend, you have to be gritty, you have to get saves, yada yada. But like at the same time, you also need the best players to be the best players. And Dylan, you mentioned it earlier. Like, yes, it's great for Matthews to score his goals, but like, can those goals be scored in a Game 7 playoff series? And I think what we saw in that game against Edmonton, again, a team that is going to the playoffs, they are their fate is kind of like decided to an extent. They know that they're going to make it. They just don't know who they're going to face. Again, it's a game. Everyone's hyping up the matchup, hyping it up, and even though the Leafs did not have the best goaltending, they won. And that's the most important thing. Yes, I do. Would you love it to be like a 4-1, 95 Devils shutdown, whatever? Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But I think there have been so many times, there's so many games in this like Matthews Marner era where either the players show up but they can't get a save, or the goaltender's awesome, but they can't score a goal. And here we had goals being scored despite the fact that the goaltending wasn't great. They're still playing very well. Just again, pucks were beating Murray, but they still have found a way to win anyway. So I think that's like the main thing that I want to focus on is just like how important it is for the best players to be the best players, and not just only be the best players in certain circumstances. So I guess what I want to see moving forward is, can that be consistent? Can we get to a point where Ryan O'Reilly comes back and the core four just continues to go off? Can you have like a three-headed monster where you have like elite skill, elite finishing threats on every single line, and just roll teams over and over again? So that's what I kind of get a little bit excited about when it comes to all the transitions and all the acquisitions that have been done. But like a game like that Saturday night against Edmonton, like there's a lot to like about how the team played, definitely.
Dylan, Pete, anything to add to the Edmonton game there?
Yeah. Dylan, you want to go?
I first want to shout out my girlfriend's dad, because I was over. I don't get to see them that often because I'm on afternoons, and he puts on the game. He knows I wanted to watch it, but I know that his wife and my girlfriend wouldn't want it on. And he just like slyly puts it on. I'm like, oh, thank you. And he put it on at a perfect time. Now I want to say you touched on Matt Murray. I think it was in the second. I think the shots were 13 something, and it was 3 goals for Edmonton, 1 goal for Toronto. Matt Murray didn't come out to the greatest start, but when it came to it at the end of the game, he made the great saves. I can't remember. There was a play, I think, right out front, and he dove and completely robbed the guy. I think
it was Draisaitl with the glove.
Yes.
Right. Yep.
And he came up big in the big moments, and that's what we've been looking for a while. The defense showed up. we stuck up for our players when it came to it. I loved the Kane and the bunting stuff. Bunting after the game was just like, I don't really care to talk about this. It was what it was. Seeing McDavid and Matthews going at it, I don't know if I've ever seen that in an Edmonton-Toronto game before. I thought it was very playoff-esque hockey. And I mean, I would love to see a Stanley Cup final between these two because it's the two best players, two Canadian teams, and it would induce the rivalry that they already have. I do want to shout out Mitchie for that beautiful, beautiful goal because that was something else. He's been on different planet this year with amazing goals. He had that one against Shesterkin earlier in the year. And Nola Chari, a guy that James has been beating the drum about all year, but he's stepping it up when we need it most. So yeah, it was a great game.
Yeah. You guys mentioned goaltending. Maybe I missed this, but why wasn't Jack Campbell playing last night? Did they make it an official statement, or is it just, do you guys think it was like a mind games, like he didn't want to play?
He didn't play the last time either.
Yeah,
I just think
me. I thought he would have gotten like a.
There was an Instagram post that I can't find, but it's from him talking about the pressures in Edmonton and the fans and the media and it getting to him. It was brought up to me last night on the live, and this was done Friday, I think it was, with him. So I don't know if that has something to do with it. Maybe he's not in a good headspace. We all know that he did battle, some of those headspace things while he was here, and the mental game for him was a huge thing, right? I mean, he talked about it openly a bunch of times. So
I thought it would have been really cool to see him play because the fans in Toronto would have been chanting "soup" after every save. Like it would have been nice to see him. But how about? Did you guys see the video tribute he got? Like the Nicolas Cage video clip? That was his tribute. It was so cringy. I didn't understand it at all. But
I just saw a couple of David Alter had a couple of pics from the thing there.
Yeah, I didn't get to see myself, but I mean. Yeah, I would have loved to seen Soupy, but it is what it is. Obviously he still has some demons against the Leafs where he didn't like the way it ended, didn't like the way he was treated, but also again that Instagram post, if you can find it, the way it was described to me.
Is it just about his return to Toronto? Because it says so many special moments, and even going out today, I was remembering a lot of the little things that meant the world to me. And that's all I see. This was from TSN.
No, this was a video. It was a done video, it was a clip, and it was on there. But I can't seem to find it anywhere. And last night in my live, some people were talking about it. So that to me, just shows that maybe something, it's a mental block for him. Probably playing the Leafs.
A video of him talking.
City really embraced me during my time here, and a lot of great memories and things I'll cherish my whole life, and obviously a big game tonight for the fellas. So it's an exciting day for us, and get to go out and play a really top-tier team, and nice to be back.
Mitch was saying he expects the reception for you to be pretty epic. The love that you're going to get. Have you thought about what the moment's going to be like when the fans, respect you and welcome you back?
Yeah, I mean, definitely appreciate all the love they've given me, my career here, and can't really imagine what it's going to be like, to be honest, until the moment happens. And
he sounds like he's pretty emotional about it, though.
I don't think that's the one that I'm talking of, but you can hear it in his voice. I mean, it's probably something that he's not ready to face, just not ready to, because he was supposed to start in Edmonton, and we all know what happened last minute. Stuart Skinner went in, so we'll see how it plays out, in future meetings, but. Right now, not ready to face the Toronto Maple Leafs. But guys, that was the week that was. Toronto Maple Leafs going 2-0, not too shabby. Only 2 games on the docket. But this week, the week that will be for the Toronto Maple Leafs is a 4-game slate. It's the Sabres, Avalanche, Hurricanes, and the Senators on a back-to-back. 2 of those teams fighting for their playoff lives. One team in the Hurricanes that defensively is stout, and their goaltending, well, they seem to just keep finding guys that are pretty darn good between the pipes. And then the Avalanche. We all know the Avalanche and Nathan McKinnon and all that story. I'll start with you, Pete, for this one. We'll save Omar for almost last of what he thinks the Leafs will do this week. Pete, what is your record for the Maple Leafs this week?
My record for the week. Okay, so we got Buffalo tomorrow, Colorado Wednesday.
Yeah.
Carolina, I'm going to that game.
I'm going to that game.
No fucking way. We got to meet up. That's awesome. All right. That's awesome, dude. St. Patty's, let's go. But okay, so Buffalo tomorrow. I'm gonna say they lose that one. They're gonna beat Colorado. Friday they're gonna win, obviously, because I'm there. And then Senators always give us a tough time, even though it's like another home game. I say they're gonna go 2-2 this week.
2-2. All right. Nothing on the back end. Dylan, what do you got for a record? Pete's 2-2.
What was I just gonna say? 2-1-1. I think we are gonna lose against Ottawa in overtime loss against Colorado.
All right. Omar, what do you think for the week?
I don't know why I feel so confident about this one.
They're all games.
I think I'm gonna. You know what? I think I'm gonna say they go 3-1.
Okay.
I think they lose to Ottawa.
Yeah.
Because
it's always Ottawa.
yeah. I think because like I think about the Buffalo game and like I think okay, well, like we kind of embarrassed in the last time, Ryan O'Reilly got the hat trick. Turner had 5 points, I think, but I hope that they kind of start to go on a little roll a little bit. And again, I think the competitiveness of these games, it's not like okay, well, it's just Buffalo, whatever, we can try to be easy about this. Like Buffalo's like actively trying to push. I think Colorado will be a game that Keith will definitely try to hype up a little bit. Like, like these were last year's Stanley Cup champions. Yep. I think you look at the Carolina game, like this is a team that like for some reason no one's talking about it as much, especially when it comes to the East. Like, Carolina isn't getting that much of a focus, but they're a great team. So I can see them showing up for those 3 games and then, second half of a back-to-back, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the second half. Yeah, second half of back-to-back. It's Ottawa. Ottawa always gives us trouble. Jacob Chicken probably gets like a hat trick or something.
Oh, you're
so
oh.
I'll say 3-1. I'll say 3-1. So
I like that.
All right, I'll give my record here in just a second, but I want to touch. You just mentioned Chikrin. How emotionally got about his grandfather being in the building and being around his family, and how he's going to cherish every moment here playing with the Ottawa Senators, and the little snipe he made at the Arizona Coyotes, saying there was more people in warm-up watching him than there's ever been at the Arizona Coyote rink, was a pretty big snipe from a guy, that's pretty even keel. But to watch the emotion roll over his face, though, about his grandfather, I love that. Him getting all choked up and telling them, hey, you're choking me up here. I love that. And I can see him having a game against Toronto on Saturday. A couple buddies on the team. But for me, I go 3-0-1. I think they beat Buffalo. I think they beat the Avalanche. I think they have some fun with the Carolina Hurricanes and run the score up. And then I think they have an overtime loss. They battle back, but they get an overtime loss against the Ottawa Senators. Put the 3-0-1 on the week. But hey, what you want to see is you want to see them pick up victories because we want that separation from Tampa. Even though Tampa went on that little skid, they're still only 4 points back. So it could change in a hurry for at least having home ice to not having home ice. So you want to get these points right now. All right, that was the week that was. Now let's get to the Leafs. Good, bad, and the ugly, brought to you by our friends over at Smitty Sports Cards. The good this week for the Toronto Maple Leafs is Matt Murray was healthy enough to play a hockey game. He was between the pipes. He didn't look exactly great, but obviously you need to get the rust off and get back to playing. Hadn't played an actual game since I think the middle of January. And again, the other parts of the lineup, Jake McCabe, Sam Lafferty, Gustafson as well, all starting to look like they fit in. Nola Chari looks like he's been here for a long time. So for me, the good this week is just the symmetry between the teams and everybody kind of fitting in where they need to fit in. What do you guys think for the good this week, Omar?
Yeah, I think Noel Chari. I like the fact that the fourth line has an identity and they own it. Again, I really like how the fourth line they start wearing a game. And I think it's actually I think the player that's benefited the most of Achari is actually Zach Aston Reese.
Yep.
who I think the longest time I tried to figure out, like, am I going to be a heavy hitter? Am I going to be defensively responsible? I'm going to try to chip in offensively. And I think he's just kind of being more towards the physical aspect of it, and like really, really trying to pin bodies and pucks along the boards. And I think Camp really complements those two as well, because he likes to do this like random, like, I'm just gonna throw the puck into the slot and see what happens. And a lot of like Leafs players have benefited from that. But again, I do think it all starts with Noel Acciari and what he has done. I think he's just kind of enhanced the team toughness, and he keeps the opposition, and I think the team itself a little bit more honest as well. So Noel Acciari definitely gets my good for this week.
My good this week is that guy heating up. He's potted a couple in recent games, and I'm looking forward to what else he has in store for the rest of the season.
So my good is the core four just lighten it up. And Omar, I saw you make a great tweet. So shout out Yu-Gi-Oh! But basically, Mitch Marner is the dark magician. Austin Matthews, the Black Luster Soldier. John Tavares, Guy the Fierce Knight. William Nylander, Celtic Guard. I love that. That's
a lot of people were very confused.
Yeah, no. If you know Yu-Gi-Oh, you know. But
the reference lands here. That's all that matters.
That's awesome.
All right. So for me, the bad this week for the Toronto Maple Leafs is the news that we heard today. And I use today because the week isn't over, and it really will affect this week coming up with one Ilya Samsonov, not 100%. The reason why Matt Murray is going tomorrow. That really worries me. David Alter used the words load management in terms of Ilya Samsonov. We know Joe Woll can come up and play pretty darn well in a pinch, but these are important times, and obviously Samsonov is an important goaltender. Now, there was no alluding to what it is, whether it's an illness, something he tweaked, or something bothering him. But after having a week off of not playing, you would think that whatever may be ailing him might be all right, but apparently he's not 100%. So for me, there is nothing else bad to talk about except for the fact there may be something going on with Ilya Samsonov. Pete, I see you smiling. What do you think?
I just hope the goaltending can stay healthy, man. I think it's almost guaranteed that Matt Murray's going to get injured in the playoffs. I mean, knock on wood, he stays healthy for the rest of the season. But like, if the goaltending, do we know what's wrong with Samsonov right now? Is he just feeling ill, or like what? Like
they just said not 100% and load management was the end of the tweet.
I mean, I don't know. Put in Joseph Woll. Eric Shalgren is.
No, bring Woll. I want to see more Woll.
Yeah, that's Woll too. But I don't know, man. As long as we can get one steady starter in the playoffs, hopefully it's Samsonov. I'm good with that. But yeah, let's take it one day at a time and let Samsonov rest here.
Yeah, Dylan, what do you think there about Ilya Samsonov? Is that your bad for the week, or is there something else that kind of
no? Mine isn't necessarily an on ice thing. I don't know whose TikTok popped up on my feed, and it was saying that Austin Matthews wants out of Toronto because he injured Ryan O'Reilly's finger.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, you couldn't be any more wrong. And I just think that idea was just for the clicks, and I was just dumbfounded when I saw it. I just couldn't believe it.
Well, you just said it right there. It's for the clicks. It did its job, right? It got around. It was circulated. Everybody saw it, and everybody was laughing at it or whatever you were doing at it. But that's an idiotic take. I mean,
it was like 126,000 likes. I'm like, buddy, you just wanted those clicks.
Yeah.
All right, Omar, for you, tinfoil hat on, and that's the biggest. Listen, I'm a tinfoil hat guy with Jake Muzzin and everything else, but Austin Matthews intentionally injuring Ryan O'Reilly because A, he's jealous, and B, he wants out of Toronto is just pure and utter BS. Like, wow.
Yeah.
For you to concoct that and think of that, that is movie-esque. That is something like somebody puts on a TV show. But anyways,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not going to give more airtime to it. Omar, what's your bad for the week for the Maple Leafs?
I mean, that Samsung news is actually pretty bad because if you were to ask me like right now, like who would be the Leaf starter game one, like it would be him. And
Yeah.
especially after like Murray's performance in Edmonton, like or against Edmonton, I mean, maybe it might be like a blessing in disguise. He kind of gets an opportunity to to redeem himself a little bit. But like I know Keith was saying that he kind of wants to give both goaltenders a run as the season continues, but I was kind of hoping that like Samsonov would kind of get the edge and get him in a little bit. But if he's injured and Murray's playing the way that he's playing, and then or he gets injured and we have to like rely on like Joseph Ball in the playoffs, which would be interesting, but extremely scary. That's definitely pretty bad.
Yeah, it would definitely be pretty bad. And for Leafs fans, I mean, don't worry yet. We don't know if it's an injury. We don't know if it's a bug. But John Tavares, same thing. Wasn't feeling 100%. Were the exact same words that were used. So we'll take it day by day and see what happens. But Matt Murray is your starter for tomorrow for now. Now, the ugly around Leafland for me is really the glaring no penalty calls on Michael Bunting. Obviously, we touched on this and we spoke with Dave Jackson via DM, former ref for the NHL, ESPN rule analyst. Omar, you probably know of him, in your times. But, he said, Bunting doing what he's doing, yelling at referees and screaming, being a hothead, embarrassing refs is not going to help him. And it looks like that fruit is starting to bear a little bit here, with things that are happening to him. He's getting hit. He's getting clipped. He's getting taken down. Yes, there were some calls yesterday, but it was more of the two going and not the one. So for me, the ugly right now is Michael Bunting trying to get back into the refs' good graces. In my opinion, really just trying to figure that out before the playoffs when it is a key thing that happens and the whistles go away even more. You don't want some sort of egregious call not called because people A, either think you're a diver or B, you're a hothead towards a referee because the way that you treat them on the ice and try to embarrass them. That's my ugly for the week. Omar, what would yours be there?
I kind of want to address that a little bit because it's like, especially in the Edmonton game, I saw so much stuff that like Bunting gets like okay, that a lot of people have said like the reason why he has like such issues like with officiating that like other people were doing, like Ryan Nugent Hopkins is tripped by Marner.
Oh my!
Right,
The Phantom.
but he's not. It was like so. I see that. And I see like other players, dropping f-bombs and saying, "Oh, that's so effing bad" and stuff. At different penalty calls and stuff. And then I don't know. It sucks because that's definitely going to happen, which is unfortunate. So that's a little ugly as well. But besides the point. I know there was a lot of talk about like Kerfoot on the top line. I'm not really going to focus too much on that. But there was one thing that Kerfoot did in like the final 2 or 3 minutes of the game when they were trying to defend a lead, where he did like a between the legs no look pass in the defensive zone. That's ugly. Don't do that. It's like don't do that. Don't do that. So I saw that. I saw that and just like spontaneous screw like high pitch like no, because like it's Edmonton. It's just 2 goals. They had an empty net at that point. Like you never know what's gonna happen. So those are the things that you hope just like don't continue. Maybe it's just like a lapse of judgment or whatever. But that was definitely an ugly play for me. And Kerfoot, you're better than that. You're a smarter player than that. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
There we go. Dylan, what's your ugly for the week?
Oh God, I don't really know.
You want me to go?
Yeah, send it.
The fucking Leaf ticket prices. How about that? So we looked at tickets for the Edmonton game because obviously Connor McDavid comes once a year, and what was it? I think for standing tickets it was like $350, and I was just like, nope, that's okay. I don't need to see Connor McDavid for $350 for one ticket. Yeah, I'm going Friday. I got a deal on it. I'm paid $100. That's even a lot of money. That's a ton of money. And these Leaf tickets are outrageous. I can't wait to see what playoff tickets are going to be like. But I don't know. What do you guys think? How much like a Game 7 Stanley Cup ticket would cost you?
Oh.
Something
Well,
ridiculous, right?
why even start this, TOmar?
I'm
That
genuinely
will be
curious
a
to know
day.
how much
That will be a
cost.
day where like banks around the country will get
Yeah.
many like loan requests.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, I understand, but like I need to go to this game. It's $10,000 or whatever. I don't know.
I mean,
Really
not
need to
if
go,
it's
but yeah.
going. Yeah.
It's like just give me this one game, please.
That's it. Approve it.
Yeah.
People will be
Yeah,
selling
that's my ugly
out.
for the week.
I want to agree on that. That is my ugly. I was at the winery last week, and my friend's husband is a Ottawa Senators fan. We looked at tickets. I think 10 up from the glass for him to go to Ottawa is $150 per ticket. For the Leafs is 10x that. So yeah, that's just absurd. I know
Pretty
they're two different, like one's a playoff team, one isn't, but it's gotta change at some point, I think. But I guess you're right. The banks are gonna get pretty busy come playoff time.
The best place to go during the playoffs though is definitely the Square. That is like
Yep.
it's so fun if you guys get to go because you're hugging and high fiving people you've never met every time they score. So shout out to the Leaf Square.
There we go. No, it's always a hopping spot. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was your good, the bad, the ugly for this week, brought to you by our friends over at Smitty's Sports Cards. All right, so now we go off the glass here. Just a couple topics that we want to touch on throughout the NHL. One is the expansion news, or the simmering expansion news for the NHL. Again, Atlanta might be getting another team, another shot at this. And then, of course, Houston's another market. And then quietly in the background, you have Kansas City as well, another team. Notice how I did not name a Canadian city yet for another team, especially when we have one that has a full-fledged, up and running, brand spanking new arena, just playing host to a Quebec Major Junior Hockey League team. I want to ask you guys, what do you think about the expansion here? Are these markets the ones that they should be targeting? Obviously, I think Houston's smart. Atlanta, to me, it's like, you had the Flames, you had the Thrashers. What's different this time? That's the issue for me. I'd rather see them venture into a new market altogether.
Yep.
Houston maybe relocation if Tempe falls through for the Coyotes, which I don't know. I don't think it's going to. I think everything's trending in the right direction. But I would like to see a team in Quebec. I would love to see one there. Hell, I won't even say Halifax. I'd like to see one out east, maybe New Brunswick somewhere. I'm sure that we would all travel to Moncton from out east here, from Nova Scotia, PEI, Newfoundland. You would get a draw like there is no, and there would be no bigger kitchen party when that team is home and it would be kicking off. I just point to the Thunderbirds coming in from the NLL and the support and the craziness, the raucousness that goes on at the Nest for that team. But Omar, I'll ask you, expansion seems like it's on the horizon. These things don't get out unless there's noise being actually made. What do you feel about it? And where would you like the NHL to expand to next?
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as what whether it's going to happen or not, I think there are two main reasons why it's going to happen, and while it's probably going to continue to happen. First reason Vegas, second reason Seattle. Vegas will go to the Stanley Cup final first year, and they made the playoffs every single year except for last year. Whereas Seattle, in their second year, are on their way to making the playoffs. So if there are other teams who are other cities who are like, oh, we want an NHL team, but we don't want to be bad for like 5 years and have to like make have to lose a bunch of money. You can look at those teams like they've only been bad 1 year, right? Two between the two of them. So like based off of the way which expansion draft and how like good players are being taken and going to these teams, and like it's actually interesting that like that Seattle is where they were, because like I didn't think they had the best expansion draft, but like they ended up figuring it out. They made some trades, made some acquisitions, drafted very well, and now here they are. Now as far as like teams to add, aside from like Atlanta and Houston, again, I do think it would be cool to get another Canadian team. And there's actually when after like I think it was at the chicken trade, I kind of chirped at the Coyotes because I was appalled at the return. I was like, move the team to Halifax, and there were a lot of like Halifax people like commenting, like, yes, do that. That'd be awesome. So like, yeah, I think that'd be sick. I think I've watched games online, online on at home, that arena, and like how loud it can get, and I think that would be pretty sick. Again, to add another Canadian team, even though hockey's Canada sport, but for the most part, the focus seems to be on the States. So it may not be on the horizon right now, but like it'd really be cool to get another team up here.
Yeah, definitely would be. Pete, what do you think? Expansion? Yes, no, and where?
When it's expansion, we're adding 2 teams, right? We're not relocating 2 teams. So wouldn't that mean we have to add another 2 teams to just balance the divisions? Like
They didn't do it when they brought in Vegas. They rolled with 31.
Yeah, but then they also brought in Seattle because
they brought in Seattle. What was it? 5 years later.
Was it 5 years later?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was 5.
Okay.
And then Arizona also switched divisions as well. They went from I'm pretty sure I don't know if they went from like Central to Pacific or Pacific to Central, but like there was I know they went to the Pacific division, and Seattle went to the Central, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
So
okay.
yeah.
I mean, I think Houston would be a good place. I think they're the biggest city that doesn't have an NHL team right now. I think
in the US, I think.
Yeah, in the US. I think that it'd make a lot of sense to move a team there. I saw someone say Hamilton, Ontario. I was like, I don't know. Don't know about that, but definitely
Jim
Quebec
Balsillie
City.
says hi.
What's that?
Jim Balsillie says hi. He tried that. Remember?
Oh, fair enough.
Fast track the Penguins there.
Yeah, Quebec City makes a lot of sense. I mean, they already have the arena. I'm pretty sure the fan base would be there, much like Winnipeg was. So I don't know. We'll wait and see if they added an extra 2 teams, but I think it'd make more sense to add 4 teams to just balance the divisions. But we'll see.
What do you think there, Dylan?
I think if you're adding a West team, you have to add an East team, in my opinion. So like Houston makes sense, and so does Quebec. But I mean, man, I've been to Halifax, and I would love a team there for the sake of the East Coasters out there. The arena in Halifax is not bad by any means, and you'd have a lot of supporters there. I don't like the idea of Atlanta. Like I understand that like there are people with money there, and it's pretty big, but like I don't see like a fan base doing well there because of you don't hear about people in hockey coming from Atlanta. You know what I mean? Like you don't really either from Houston, but Texas is a little bit bigger. Like people do play hockey there a bit, I guess, because of Dallas and whatnot. But I think seeing a balance with 8 Canadian teams and then another American team would make a lot of sense to me.
We'll have to see what the NHL decides to do, but we all know when it comes to dollars, it makes sense to Gary Bettman. So it'll be a thing that they put the price tag on. If someone's willing to meet it, then they will add these teams and it will grow. Another thing for me, looking around, I did not like the optics of firing Chuck Fletcher from the Philadelphia Flyers. I know that they were going to try to let him ride out the rest of the season. It seemed more like fan pressure than anything that got him the ultimate axe right away. But the trade deadline, I know that was a bongling. I know it was. But at the same time, the guy went up to a press conference, got booed, had to be defended by his head coach in John Tortorella. But then you fire him. I mean, listening to Jeff Merrick and Elliot Friedman talk about it on their show, and the things that Chuck Fletcher apparently is going through beyond hockey, it just seemed almost like a cold kind of move because the Flyers aren't doing anything. There's nothing happening here. You can wait till the end of the season, the very end of the season, and then fire him. That's where you can do it. So that way the Flyers are no longer in the newsreel. The team's not having to play games, and you move on. Whoever you want is already being groomed. Hello, Danny Briere. You're already there.
Yeah.
And you know he's going to be the guy charging your draft. So you don't really need to do anything, but you fire him and say, well, it's because we wanted to protect him. Well, no, the damage is already done. You know, you should allow the guy to be around the team until the end of the year and do it properly. To me, firing because the fans booed him and because of the pressure and just everything that went on around it, I didn't like it. Didn't sit well with me. But again, I know hockey is a business, but it just seemed really cold and callous to me. What do you think, Omar?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to kind of think about because, you know, like, so like on the surface, objectively, did Chuck Fletcher deserve to lose his job? Yes. I think despite you know the mishandling of the trade deadline, I think even the years prior when they were actually trying to compete, I think there were some, you know, questionable and interesting like deals and trades and signings that were made that didn't necessarily make too much sense or didn't really work out for both sides or some of them that would just plain bad luck. I mean, like you trade Ryan Ellis and then he's injured. Then you know you can't really get too much value from him on the ice. So like that's unfortunate. But I don't know. It seems as if it was a scenario for the Flyers where I guess they tried their best to maybe come off looking the best or kind of maybe try to have the best scenario possible and it just wouldn't work. So maybe you don't fire Chuck Fletcher, but you hire Daniel Briere as like, I don't know, a consultant or whatever, but everyone kind of like reads the writing on the wall. Like, yeah, sure. He's just a consultant person who's in the past, like interviewed for like GM jobs. I want to say he was one of like the, if not the finalists, but like he was in consideration for like, for the Habs job before they hired Hughes. So it's okay. So like, so is it that? So I don't know. I think maybe it was just like they knew what they wanted to do. They knew that Briere was going to be their guy. Maybe they wanted to give him some time to kind of acclimatize to the organization, know what's there, kind of make an actual plan for a concrete rebuild. These are our young players. These are our picks. This is what we're going to do at the draft. These are people that we're going to move. And I guess instead of like, you know, bringing him in and kind of trying to sugarcoat what his responsibilities are, they just said, okay, we'll just cut bait with Chuck Fletcher and then bring him in. Because all the things that I've read and heard so far have been that like, you know, the whole interim thing for Briere is just a name that like they definitely plan on moving forward with him long term. So maybe it was just like from a place just ripping off a Band-Aid, regardless of how it looked.
I kind of see both sides of this. In one sense, like say you fire Chuck before the trade deadline, I don't think they would have want to put a lot of pressure on Daniel Briere to make those decisions like as soon as possible at the trade deadline. I think that would be very difficult being a rookie GM trying to make trades and I think a fan base would react and be like, oh, why did you do this and this? Like, couldn't you have gotten more to a rookie GM where Chuck, like he has established his name and he can reiterate that like this is what we got. I know he didn't make the moves, but I think this eases Daniel Briere into his role heading into obviously the draft, which is pretty big for Philadelphia considering how deep the draft is. And then like I feel terrible for Chuck. In a sense, like firing him before and avoiding the whole fan base situation would have been good, but I think if he's dealing with something else personal, maybe he should have taken a leave sooner, maybe. But I think they kind of wanted Chuck to take the trade deadline rather than Daniel Briere, in my opinion.
Can see that. I still think they should have kept him around till the end of the year. Pete, what say you?
I don't know. I feel like it was a mercy killing after that interview with the fans booing him. But what were they really mad with? Just not getting anything for JVR? I don't even know their trade. Like, what did they trade this year?
JVR, Justin Braun.
Zach McEwen.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
got Zach
And
McKinnon.
Ivan Provorov was on the block as well, right? They didn't trade him.
Yeah, I think those kind of deals are deals that you have to do more in the offseason
Yeah.
than trying to tool that up at a trade deadline. I think you
I think-
start the talks around now.
Yeah, I think a lot of moves could happen at the draft, and like I don't know, like they're just a team in like in la la land because they should be competitive and or they should have started the rebuild a lot sooner than what they have.
No, definitely. All right. Well, we'll finish the off the glass segment here. We're running a little heavy on time, so we want to get the glass segment and then our bearded blue warrior, which Omar will be joining us for, which is awesome. The last one for me, the tweet circulating about one player who did suit up for a lot of games for the Phoenix, Arizona Coyotes, Mr. Shane Doan. Is he a Hall of Famer? I'll get you guys to go around the horn here. That's the question. Soup du jour today. Pete, Shane Doan, Hall of Famer. Simple. Yes or no?
I don't know his stats. He is.
That's what I went to.
Here, I'll read them off to you. 1,540 games, 972 career points.
I don't know his accolades either. I'll just say yes. Yes, he's a Hall of Famer.
All right. Dylan, Hall of Famer, Shane Doan, yes or no?
Yes.
All right. Omar, Shane Doan, Hall of Fame, yes or no?
No.
I'm with you, Omar. No for Shane Doan. Great guy, has done a lot for the game. Obviously international hockey wise as well. I know they call it the Hockey Hall of Fame, not just the NHL Hall of Fame, but he needs a few more accolades on his resume. Also, not eclipsing the 1,000-point mark when you don't have a lot of those big trophy accolades on your resume really kind of hold you back, in my opinion.
I think being in Arizona really affected that, though.
You know what? For a guy that played in Arizona, a lot of people knew who he was, especially one guy who wears this jersey right here.
Yeah.
Very influential on one Austin Matthews. But I still don't think it's enough to get him into the Hall of Fame, but we shall see. Right, so let's jump into it. It's our Bearded Blue Warrior, brought to you by our friends over at Boxing Rock Brewing Co. Yes, we throw on the blue beards because it's weird and it's fun. Why not? All right,
I don't
Omar.
have one where I join.
Okay, well, we'll send you one. We're getting more made up, so they'll be here. So for your Bearded Blue Warrior this week, who is someone you think is a Bearded Blue Warrior?
Yeah, for me, we talked about him earlier. Noel Charlie for me. I love what he's brought to the team so far. The fact that he's like surprisingly fast, and he's a player that you don't necessarily think is fast, but he's a hard skater. Again, he checks, he keeps people honest, and again, I just love how he can consistently like sticks up for players, for his teammates and for his line mates, and I can't wait to watch him in the playoffs. So he's definitely my Bearded Blue Warrior for this week.
Love it. Pete, who's yours?
Give me Michael Bunting. What was the goal he scored? I think it was New Jersey. Did you see how fired up he was? The face he made.
He was very excited.
He had a great game. I loved his game last night. Again, just pissing off Evander Kane, and yeah, he's my Bearded Blue Warrior.
All right, Dylan, who is your Bearded Blue Warrior?
Mitch Marner, for that beautiful goal. Basically a defensive play. You just turning the puck over. And for even if he stopped the season now, he would still be a point per game. So shout out to him.
All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna go with someone that everybody's probably gonna be like, yeah, we should have. It's gonna be 134. Austin Matthews. Guy took a puck off the knee on Saturday night against Vancouver. Still played both games this week. Still scored in both games. Then elevated his 200-foot game against one of the best players of our generation, and Connor McDavid. Got under his skin, got physical, got testy, was hitting, was blocking shots, everything you want to see from your superstar player. Right there, Austin Matthews solidifies my Bearded Blue Warrior for the week, because why not get AM34 on there? Omar, it is amazing to always get to sit down and talk with you. can you tell everyone where they can listen to you on a more regular basis other than here every once in a blue moon?
Yeah, so I do a lot of stuff with Yahoo. It was a time with Avery Lewis McDougall, Julian McKenzie, Sam Chang. We talking about different things. Also in the mentions on it as well, and then discuss pretty much on Twitter. TOmar. It's been fun.
Go follow. I've been riding with TOmar from the very beginning when it was White's Corner was the old name that you had going on the other side there when we first linked up and did all of our shows about everyone going from Toronto to Carolina or Carolina to Toronto. So
and now it's Edmonton.
Yes. As much as it changes, it stays the same, just different names in the game. It's awesome to have you on, my friend. Look forward to having you on, hopefully closer to the playoffs. Hype it up a little bit and get excited. But ladies and gentlemen, this has been Offside Hockey Talk, where the Maple Leafs and hockey come to talk.